A couple of chaotic weeks there. With the unknown, it had obviously the COVID feel about it again. And you just sort of try to take a breath and think, it will end, and we just got to get through this little patch. This whole industry is a relationship built, I believe. You can have an argument with a bloke one day, but you got to get over it pretty quickly because he's going to be overworking for someone else, and it's as big as it is, it's small. We've got 15 in the office now.
Wow.
And probably at the moment I'd say we'd be around 65 on site.
Wow.
Yeah. Predictions for that to sort of be around 100. I always thought, well, if you're not in it to really be the biggest, then
and succeed, right?
What are you doing? So I was often asked, how big do you want to get or whatever, and I would say, well, it'd be really great to be the biggest in Victoria or whatever.
So we always ask the hard-hitting questions here. Are you a choc jam cookie man, or are you a choc chip? What's your Drillcut biscuit of choice? Welcome back to episode 2 of Behind the Wall podcast, brought to you by the trade for the trade. And just before I get started on our episode 2, I just want to do a quick shout out. My daughter in hospital, Davey, hopefully you get better soon. All the best, and shout out to obviously my other kids that might be missing out there. But episode 2 is full of excitement and information. We are very, very lucky to have Steve McGhee from Melbourne Elite Plumbing with us. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you for having me.
Mate, obviously episode 2, it's very new, but it was always great to get you on. We started off by trying to get you in for episode 1. A few things have changed. There's been a few things happening in the plumbing industry.
Yeah, we've been busy.
That I'm sure we'll get on to. But first of all, we always love to touch on, tell us the Steve McGhee story. Obviously a plumber from a young age. How did you get into plumbing, and why did you particularly choose plumbing?
It wasn't so much that I had an ambition to be a plumber. It was be a trade, do a trade.
Yeah.
If you want to leave school, which I did a pre-apprenticeship course in carpentry, and it wasn't really for me. And then I thought, we'll try plumbing, and just sort of, got stuck with it. And wasn't too bad. Worked with good people, I think. The people.
Who did you start working with?
A company out of Langwarrin, Glenn Young, G&M Young Plumbing. It was just a small crew. But drainage for the first year of my apprenticeship. Holes. Yeah, just, being tested, really.
Yeah. Was that enjoyable, being behind the shop? Obviously, coming from school, you're probably, like many plumbers out there, didn't like being stuck behind the desk, and all of a sudden you're in the pouring down rain, or the sun beating down on you, and you've got a shovel in your hand, you got blisters. How did that?
That's it. It was definitely harder, I think, than what the boys are doing it today. And funnily enough, I didn't get along with my boss.
Who does?
But just being the two of you, and obviously the operator, it was, it was strained. But eventually I left there and went to another company, and that same boss came back and knocked on my front door when I was in my 4th year and said, sorry for how I used to treat you. You were actually a good worker, and would you come back and work for me? So, he offered me qualified wages in my 4th year and stuff. So I went over and sort of started running his stuff again. So
Yeah. And so when did it change for you in terms of laying drains? Did you then move on to other areas of the plumbing world, or did you sort of lay drains for a fair while?
Yeah, so that first year, you had to cut your teeth and prove your worth. And then if you wanted to work a Saturday or something like that, you would get an opportunity to do a rough-in or a fit-off or something like that. It was all, domestic stuff. And then when I left there, I did drainage, but not in the volume that I was that first year. It was more so into, a van of 2, and you had to get 2 rough-ins, or, done a day and a set of downpipes or whatever. We were worked hard. So
been in the industry for as long as I have. I've seen many of plumbers just become plumbers, and they just the trade, and they just roll through, and by the time they're 40, they've got no back left, and their hands are calloused up. But So did you, from an early age, go, you know what, I reckon I can really sink my teeth into this? And then part two of that question is, when did you start to realise, hey, I could actually make this a career and run a business?
Yeah, so it was sort of into my first year out of my time is sort of when you start to click, because you're always on apprentice wages and things like that. And then obviously when Glenn came and knocked on my door and said, I will offer you X amount to come, and you sort of click and you think, well, you know, you start to realise you might have a bit of worth if you go hard and that sort of stuff. So first year out of my time is when I started my own thing. I just did a cashier for a little Italian dude in Rosebud that he couldn't get anyone to go down and finish off a bit of guttering for him, and my mum said, would you help this guy out? And so I went down on the weekend and did it, and I think it was $100 or $150 or something like that, and turned out his daughter was in charge of the trades at Ray White in Oakley, and so I was immediately passed on the contract for the maintenance. So basically the very next day 3 or 4 jobs came through, and I went, you know, shit, like, so had a open sort of chat with my boss at the time and said, this could be a 2-day-a-week thing, or, you know, it's an opportunity I don't want to say no to progressing, and obviously didn't want to burn a bridge or anything like that. So he was okay with it, and it just snowballed. Within a couple of weeks, I had to sort of say, listen, it's more than I thought it was going to be, and I'm going to have to look at doing it full time. So yeah,
it's strange when you look back to it. Yeah, many years on, we're sort of similar ages, where you go, you know, that particular boss or manager or whoever it was, geez, I had a hard time and he didn't appreciate me. And then you look back and you go, you know what, I actually learnt more during that time than I did when it was actually smooth sailing. I think we take it for granted, you know, at the time that, you know, this isn't what I want to do, or this isn't how I would treat people. But then all of a sudden, in hindsight, you go, well, man, that was worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems very similar to you.
That's it. And, you know, I still touch base with him occasionally. I still, one of the guys that works for me it was me and him leading the 2 crews at under Youngie. So and Brett works for me now. So we're still pretty tight.
That's
so,
good.
Yeah.
And then fast forward quite a few years, Melbourne Elite Plumbing. So you've gone from a young kid in the trenches digging with a shovel to what's the Melbourne Elite crew worth these days in terms of how many plumbers and how many team members have you got?
We've got 15 in the office now.
Right.
And probably at the moment, I'd say we'd be around 65 on site.
Wow.
Yeah. Predictions for that to sort of be around 100. You know, it's just adding foot soldiers with the management that we have in place. So, over the next few months, that'll expand, and we should be up sort of around 100, I think.
In your wildest dreams, did you ever think that this was going to be as big as you could go, or was it just keep going? And
it's an interesting question because without, you know, sounding like a tosser.
Like a tosser.
Yeah, from a young age, I always thought, well, if you're not in it to really be the biggest, then
and succeed, right?
What are you doing? So you know, I was often asked, how big do you want to get or whatever, and I would say, well, it'd be really great to be the biggest in, you know, Victoria or whatever. But sort of now we've started the Brisbane Elite Plumbing as well, so we're looking at sort of branching out to Queensland and that. So I guess we just want to see how far we can push it.
We often hear in the industry that there's that tipping point, like you can get to a certain stage and you have growth in terms of team, but you'd never sort of grow in terms of profit until you sort of get that tipping point. Yeah. How did you push through that?
It's always been about the people that I have around me.
Yeah.
I'm not the smartest man in the room, probably ever. But I'm fortunate enough to just have really, really great people that support me and come along the journey. And along the way as well, I've always sort of been surrounded by really good people. And if you treat them well, they want to do the best for you as well and see you and the company succeed. So
it's always been taught to me that's a strength of a real leader, is that know your strengths, but also understand the strengths of others around you and let, Nathan Buckley, I remember once saying, let the bakers bake. You don't let the candlestick make a bake.
Yeah.
So you surround yourself with people that have different skill sets and different approaches on life or different opinions, because you're not always right, and you need others to be collaborative in any approach, whether it's plumbing, whether it's the corporate world.
Yeah.
Because it can't just be your way all the time. And as a leader, that's a real strength. And it's something that, obviously Melbourne Elite is doing really well because of the growth that you're sort of touching on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, when people come in for an interview or something like that, they've been to maybe 2 or 3 other big boys, and you sort of have to sell it differently. It's not a dictatorship. You're coming here to perform a role and be paid for that role, and we're going to allow you to sink your teeth into it, and you're not going to be micromanaged and things like that. You'll be accountable, and obviously, but run with it. We want you to come in and make it your own. And because we're growing, we started as a maintenance company, obviously, and to where we are now. So I don't proclaim to know everything either. That's why I rely on these guys to. But
it also obviously gives them buy-in. Why do you want to show up every day? We want to get better as a group.
Yeah.
It's not to put more money in your bank account. It
doesn't change.
It rewards those who want to create their own legacy, and obviously you've been through that, we touched on earlier. You've dug the trenches. You've been there.
Yeah.
You started as a young kid that was doing, let's call it, the shit work, right? So to be able to progress like that, you've lived it, so you want to pull others through, right? And we see it often, and talking to some of your boys out on site, is that they too started in that role, and you've been able to pull them through, into foremen and project managers.
That's it. Yeah, it was really. We are proud of that. A lot of so you'd know Dean, obviously. Been with us. I think it's 8 years now. Dean just came with me as a maintenance plumber. We used to, change out ducted heaters, me and him in a ute together and stuff like that. And now he's obviously, one of the best foremen we have in the EBA space, which is, he gets feedback from PMs and stuff like that. That he's a really good foreman, and they've dealt with, obviously. People around as well that are really good too. So we're proud that we've been able to bring him up with us too. So
it's awesome. Within all the you've done you've obviously started commercial a short time ago, or not so much a short time ago, but started as a maintenance and then pivoted. What are one of the the buildings that you sort of look at and you go, when you're driving past, you get the kids in the back and you're like, I built that sort of. What's the one that sticks out to you in terms of one that you sort of hang your hat on that may be a little bit progressive, maybe something that's state of the art, or something that you may have changed your company to head in a different direction for the better?
I think probably there's probably 2 jobs. I think the first job we done as a commercial plumber, we were actually helped out by Jolliffe Plumbing as well. Craig Jolliffe, a great man.
Fantastic.
Yeah, he put his name to us, and he was asked to take over a job when a plumber went under, and he said, well, I know Steve's trying to get into it, would you give him a shot? And there was a negotiation that if anything went wrong, Craig was going to come in and save the day. So we did that, Royal Parade in Parkville, just near the Carlton Footy Club there. That one, so being the first job and finishing it and sort of cutting our teeth. And then obviously the next one, where Ironside, Marquee Apartments in Paran, was our contract, our job. It's all on us. It's up to you, make or break. So,
and what sort of time frame? How long ago were those sort of projects you're talking there?
I'd say they're probably about 6 or 7 years ago now. Yeah.
And now you look at the crew that you have, and we can talk about the jobs like the Jam Factory and Drummond House and things like that. Obviously you've got so many projects on the go now that you probably look back and go, we really pushed through those ones. And shout out to Craig for that step. And now you've just taken it and look at the projects you're on now and transforming the way that commercial buildings are being formed.
That's it. You can you can be given a helping hand or whatever, but at the end of the day, you really have to run with it and make it, what it is. So, walking on our jobs, I don't get out as much as I'd like to. I mean, you go out on site for a day and you're cooked for 2 days chasing emails and whatever.
Right.
But I do still at times pinch myself when I walk onto the projects. The scale of the work that we're doing as a team, and just I'm proud of where we are.
Yeah. You touched on it then. You've obviously worked with your hands in a younger age, and now you're stuck behind the computer and you can only get out once a week or once a fortnight. How does that sit with you as a plumber now to a business owner? How's that transition gone with yourself, and are you still enjoying it?
Yes. It's funny because if you're at a party or a function, or when someone says, "Oh, what do you do?" and you say, "Oh, I'm a plumber," but am I really a plumber anymore?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like, when was the last time I changed the tap washer or whatever? I don't even get to do a lot of my own house anymore because being busy, one of the boys will come and do it. So, I feel like a bit of a cheat saying I'm a plumber.
I believe you're more of a concreter these days, right?
Hey, concreter. I say a firefighter because you just come in and put out fires during the day is sort of what we do now. But no, the progression has been good, and it's nice to go home at the end of the day and not be scraping all the blue glue off your fingers and that.
And obviously you've got young kids that play footy, being able to have a kick with them means a lot too, right?
That's it. And we're able to, sponsor the club and things like that, and,
give a shout out to the club. What's the club?
Beaconsfield Junior Footy Club.
Yeah.
Great club down there. Yeah. Good people. Lots of volunteers, obviously, and stuff. So it's,
I created a football club myself, and the volunteers is so crucial. So. And sponsorship's massive too.
Yeah,
right?
so we sponsor, and I put my hand up stupidly this year and said, if you need anything, just let me know. And I got stuck with the equipment coordinator role.
Oh, good.
So
how's that going?
Yeah, well, I hand out a lot of footies basically. So
who in Melbourne Elite's taken on that role?
No. Initially, I thought if I get stuck with something, the girls in the office will give me a chop out, but this has been solely on me. So and my wife Melissa as well does the team manager and stuff like that.
And it's rewarding, right? Like it's amazing how much joy you can get from kids' sport and just seeing them progress. And they don't necessarily have to win, but footy's a different sport. I always say footy's. It doesn't matter if you get a kick or if you get anywhere near the ball. It's just different atmosphere within the four walls of a footy club, as opposed to like a basketball or anything else. It is just
it's really good for the boys. It's it's building their character. So
we touched on it before with the changes in the landscape of plumbing at the moment. How are you as Melbourne Elite going with the changes? So even just in PVC pricing and availability, how's that affected your workflow, especially on these large commercial sites that you've just touched on?
So there was definitely a couple of chaotic weeks there. With the unknown, it had obviously the COVID feel about it again. And you just sort of try to take a breath and think, it will end, and we just got to get through this little patch. But we were lucky enough to have good relationships where we jumped on it early. We acted straight away. I think during COVID, we might have sat back and, the unknown, let's see how this plays out, or let's not panic or
surely
whatever.
It'll only be a week, right?
Yeah, that's it. So we just thought, okay, lessons learned, let's jump on it. So we've been putting a lot in place. We secured supply, obviously, with some suppliers and stuff, leaned on relationships. The increases in cost are what they are. There's no way around that. You're just going to have to, find it somewhere else, basically. Margins that you have on plant and equipment or, are going to cover it. We have done the maths, and it's not probably as bad as what we think. But it's going to be a hit, obviously. So,
do you think it's more challenging times now than what it was in COVID?
No, I think... COVID was a different beast. I think the ability to continue to work is the key. Especially when you have overheads in the office and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Completely not being able to work was horrific.
And to headcount, right? Like you had to make sure you had, not just you, but all the other trades on site. You couldn't just throw bodies at a...
Yeah, well, you were dictated to the night before. Your boys were sitting at home just waiting on the call. Are we going in? Are we not going in? Are you going to have 6 and 5 tomorrow? And that it was a shit show. But it's much better this time. I don't feel like we've panicked.
Yeah.
We've put things in place to get through
strategically.
Yeah, that's it. But I don't think we've panicked. We obviously went out to our valued clients and said, X, X, and X. This is what we're facing. Where you can help us. And it is what it is. We've leaned on the relationships and we've had some good outcomes.
Yeah.
So,
and that's important in our industry that, and coming from a supplier aspect, you're the plumber out on site, but obviously you've got to then a customer, being either builder, developer, or however far down the line you've got to go. For you to be successful, for them to be successful, you've still got to be successful too.
Correct,
so there's swings and roundabouts, and obviously the relationships that you've formed over, as long as you've been in the industry is obviously holding Melbourne Elite in really good position.
No, it's this whole industry is a relationship built, I believe. You can have an argument with a bloke one day, but you got to get over it pretty quickly because he's going to be overworking for someone else, and it's as big as it is, it's small.
It's such a small industry,
and you're going to come across the people again. So learn to just not burn bridges where you can, and
Love to understand more about Brisbane Elite Plumbing. So where did that come from, and why Brisbane?
We work for a shop fitting company, and they were sort of struggling to get reliable plumbers up there to just fit out their shops and stuff like that. So it started as us flying up there to do a few bits and pieces and whatever, and then obviously I think we just had a bit more of a think about it, and Olympics and this and that and whatever, and there was a pretty major player up there that we got told was considering shutting the doors and whatever, so we thought that there might be a gap in the market. So we've only flown up there once to sit down with some people and start getting some tenders out the door. But our first job officially as Brisbane Elite Plumbing will be done this month. So
amazing. What's the differences you see from the Melbourne market to the Brisbane market, even in terms of the build or the way that you have to tender for these quotes?
Yeah, well, we were told pretty much even if it's not an EBA project up there, quote EBA.
Yeah, right.
That's where we think productivity down here is, not great at the moment, but up there it seems to be, less again. So have to be careful with who you work for. But again, it'll be a relationship thing. When we go larger up there, it'll be with someone that we've either worked with down here or, a recommendation that's we're not just going to go in blind, I think, and work for a builder that we haven't worked with before on a large scale up there that might be suicide. So
it's tough, right? I think was it 7 days that we had down here in Victoria in January, working days coming back from Christmas, and obviously prior to Christmas there was shutdowns and things like that. It's very hard to sort of map out those 2 months, and then to go into a different state with different laws. You'd want to be across everything, right?
That's it, and even the different EBAs, like a couple of weeks ago where everyone came back to work, bar the plumbers.
For a whole week.
Yeah, well, it was the 2 or 3 days there where we were on RDOs. Well, not we, but the boys were on RDOs.
That's when you go back to plumbing, right? I'm RDO.
Yeah, that was a big firefighter week, that one.
Yeah.
So coming back, it was chaos because everyone on site had just been chipping away, for those couple of days, and then we like to be up their arse. Like we like to, have a job resourced correctly and things like that. Pull the labour on and off as we need to. but yeah, we came back and it was full on. So
yeah. So what do you do in that aspect? Do you have to throw more bodies, or do you just guys working harder? You
overtime, basically, straight
yeah.
away, and a couple of Saturdays to get back to where we were.
Yeah.
Because they're always going to scream for more labour. But builders are always,
the most important.
Burn the bridge or anything on here, but they always want more labour.
Yeah. Well, it's turnaround for them, right? Like it's about how quickly can they complete a project.
Yeah.
That's their metric.
Yeah. Well, I mean, program will always trump anything for us. If we're behind, we'll do the overtime and the Saturdays and cop it on the chin or whatever. But I think you'd be silly if you weren't trying to manage your labour as close as you can. And if you don't need to have a full crew in there on a Saturday, then why would you? Program up here, but smarts as well to not just flood a job because you're being told you need X amount of labour. We monitor it very closely. So
yeah. And then obviously in turn with that, it's been able to complete every job. Yeah. So you've only got X amount of people to be able to delegate into these positions. So you rely obviously heavily on your Bens and Craigs and to be able to truthfully tell you, hey, we need X on this and X on this and to catch up. So it goes back to what we were saying before. I think Melbourne Elite structurally is pretty sound, and you've got the right people in the right positions to execute. Yeah, we did it a little bit differently. We sort of built it from the top. So we copped it early. We put people in places, and then all we had to do later was add the foot soldiers. So it was in tender meetings and stuff, getting that across to the builders that the management's in place, and all we need to do is add your 5 plumbers or whatever, and not a lot changes up top. But Clint as well. He's very driven, and he's a great asset. So, he's across everything, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's been in the plumbing industry, I think, since it was earthenware. And
I have to tell him sometimes, don't worry about the uniform, or something like that. You concentrate on that, but it's just because he's all over everything.
He's a good operator.
Yeah, he is. So, and as you said, the boys, but also the girls in the office as well. Solid crew in there. Really, really good culture.
Yeah. And you're one of those commercial companies that downsize as well, or even to a smaller office setup, smaller warehouse, because you're understanding that holding stock isn't the way forward. Like, it's just dead stock. So being able to utilise what we were saying before about your relationships with the merchants and with suppliers to be able to deliver on time far outweighs just holding stock in a factory somewhere, right?
Correct, yeah. We'd be lying if we didn't say that we had some stuff sitting there as a backup plan.
Correct. Yep.
But again, that was relationships. We knew the developer in our factory complex, and I was able to call him and say, hey, mate, can I borrow that factory next door for a couple of days? And he was more than willing to go, yeah, no worries. So a couple of pallets in there to get us out of trouble if we need. But, it was more so focusing on, that might be a fix for a week, but long term, what's the...
It's more reliant on site and getting the guys to look ahead.
Correct.
And be more organised, because we know in this industry it's very much very reactive, so you've got to be able to look ahead and forecast as best you can, because every time one guy goes down an alley mac to pick up a small box is costing you hundreds of dollars just in time. So this is what we're talking about before, where the smart plumbers and the smart companies like Melbourne Elite are looking into their business and saying, how can we do things better? And how do we reduce our costs? So the pricing might go up in terms of our product, but how do we reduce our overall costs? And that's not getting 3 deliveries a day. That's let's look ahead and let's go 3 times on one delivery and things like that. Because I could only imagine sending someone down to pick up a couple of things down at the local merchant, and then they go through the Macca's drive-through, and then they get a coffee, and then
Reese were always good for that. Have a coffee at the desk and speak a bit of shit with Barry. So it's all about efficiencies, and your biggest cost is always your labour.
Yeah.
So wherever you can pick up the efficiencies there,
Yeah.
there's a fine line between obviously what the boys can achieve
100%,
realistically. But we're trying to drive productivity. We believe it's low from where it should be. Even with our tendering, if you're basing it on an 8-hour day and you think you're going to get 5.8 hours of productivity, we feel like that could be higher. So all we're trying to do is drive productivity to but realistic expectations as well without upsetting the apple cart too much.
100%. Because having been in the merchant land, it was never one guy turning up. It was two of them turning up to the trade desk and and with their lunch or whatever. But as a business owner, obviously these are the things you've got to do. But that's where Melbourne Elite, where you talk about culture and buy-in from your plumbers, you can sort of negate that. And obviously be as profitable as you can, because as profitable as you can be obviously means that you can invest into your future.
Correct. And, not that we won't drive as hard, but, there'll be an easing of, with the pressure of what's going on at the minute as well. We just, I don't take lightly every guy that we put on. There's behind a guy is a family and that's relying on that wage. So we're trying very hard not to be bring them on, flick them off as you please. We're sort of, and we don't have that luxury. Being a new name in the industry, if you're next to Chaddock or Cookendowsett or whoever, you have. That's where we're trying to compete. So we have to offer something a bit different, to gain that little bit of advantage. So we're trying really hard to work on that culture and and there's been a real shift into that home life as well, and being able to get the right people in, but also understand that they've got a family at home. Sometimes there's pressures at home, so it's not the old days where we can just kick someone up the arse and tell them, oh no, you got to hang back 3 hours. There's a little bit of there's a lot more give and take these days than what there used to be, and being able to get people to buy into that and then to understand that that creates that culture moving through, and being accepting of you have to let some stuff go. We know every Friday of a public holiday long weekend after 12 there's nothing getting done. The spit roast is on and all that sort of stuff. You just cop it on the chin and you let them have those little wins, because again that's culture building, and it's just the way it is. So pick your battles. 100%. Now we always ask the hard hitting questions here. Are you a choc jam cookie man, or are you a choc chip? What's your drill cut biscuit of choice? I think whenever I get out to site and I look in the containers and that sort of stuff, it's generally the choc chip. I think that I'm able to pinch one. Obviously, Drillcut is a great. Very happy to have Melbourne Elite on, and we work closely together here. It's been an amazing sort of journey that it's been a short journey for myself, but obviously that predates me. But it's been great to see your acceptance to the innovation side of things. We've touched on being able to change the way that we do build, and obviously in the plumbing industry, you've currently got a Try Plus job going at the moment. That and this is some things that 5 years ago we would have just went, this is so different. But it's great to see that Melbourne Elite is at the forefront of trying different methodologies of being able to execute the build. So it's amazing that you're still in an infancy stage, but willing to take a risk as well in a different way that others sort of may be staying a little bit safe. Yeah, well, we haven't got to where we are by not taking a risk. We need to always be open to anything, and if there's a little bit of risk involved, then I think you have to calculate it and accept it, and and try new things. It might not always work, but you have to be open to trying new things to get ahead. 100%. It's like that 45 kick into the middle of the field, right? Sometimes it's going to come off, and sometimes not. That's it. You're better off taking that
kick and having the reward than playing it safe. So
correct.
I think playing it safe, especially these days, is a detriment to your company. And so Melbourne Elite sort of steps above all that. And it's been a pleasure to sort of see your growth in my short time in terms of Melbourne Elite. And I've got no doubt the sky's the limit for you guys.
No, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
thank you. And it's been great you coming on board with Drillcut as well. It's been really good and good to work with you.
Awesome. So yeah, we'll flip you the 50 later on.
I'll talk to Tim.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, thank you once again, Steve, for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love chewing the fat with you. It's we're sort of those two guys that just we left school for a reason.
Relationships.
Relationships. We always sort of we can tell. We call a spade, and we always support each other. And as you said, relationships go much further in this industry than anything else. So
correct.
Thank you very much for coming on episode 2. We tried episode 1, but we got episode 2.
Here we are.
Here we are. But yeah, thank you very much for tuning in, guys. If you do like our content, please like and subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you at episode 3.